Now, there was also rumors before the show even started that there would be a cameo by a certain Sith Lord. What's going on, Phoenix Squadron? Today, we're going to do some predictions. We're going to read an article, and we're going to talk about the finale of The Acolyte. Let's jump into it, and let's go right over The Acolyte. Now, this is from the Nerdist, Leslie Headland, after episode 7, talking about some things like virginses and witches and Qui-Gon and Anakin. So now I'm going to skim over some of this, but I'm going to link the entire interview down in the description below. So make sure you go check that out. But we're going to jump over here to a couple of things I want to talk about that are going to lead us into the finale. We're going to use this article along with the first 7 episodes as a catalyst to make our predictions. So let's go down to right here where she says, the backstory to the witches of Brendok and where they are is that Torben mentions it's an old mining company. Now, I think this is pretty important. One, because of where Chimere is at. Chimere is on an island that seems to resemble Baldemnik, which has some cortosis in it. Tenebris owned a mining company called Subtext Mining. And the fact that the backstory here for Brendok is that Torben mentions it's an old mining company. I think that's a clue there who is going to appear at the end. We're going to get to that in a second. All right, so now we're talking about the virgins on Brendok. She's talking about here, says this is very important to me, Dave Filoni, Pablo Hidalgo, that the girls are not actually the virgins. This is something that I said in my last couple of videos as well. I think it's either the whole planet or that tree on the planet or that big hole in the ground that is the actual virgins, not the girls. However they got here, the act of creating them was going to need amplification. Therefore, we came around to the decision that the virgins was on Brendok and that it would remain mysterious. So that way, if we went back there, so in the finale, we're not going to learn anything about what the virgins actually is. That's something that they could visit later on if there is a season 2. But it was important that this type of virgins was a natural one as opposed to being within a human or being an alien. I think she was referring to Anakin in this. And then the interviewer asked, okay, this is not even my question, it's souls. The twins, where did they come from? How are they created? So she says here, tune in next week. We're definitely not going to leave you hanging. So we are going to get an explanation on the girls and how they were created. But one of the things also it seems like is Brendok is the beginning and the end. I think we're going to be continuing to spend time on Brendok. A couple of the scenes in a couple of the trailers shows a ship chase, and it looks like it's Soul ship probably chasing after Chimere ship. So I think there's going to be a chase there going on, it looks like, and I think they're going towards Brendok. I think we're going to see Brendok. It's going to take place there. The end of this, the finale of everything is going to be on Brendok. Okay, the interviewer asked here, I'm glad you brought up Qui-Gon because I want to ask about Anakin. I think the connections between the twins and Anakin were obvious even before this episode, but I want to focus on their differences. Specifically, this idea that they're one consciousness split into 2 bodies. Why would that make them stronger, aka the power of 2, and not weaker if they're 2 halves of one whole? And Headland says, I think it's both. The girls are guinea pigs. They're patient zero for this sort of power. It didn't work perfectly. Therefore, the girls are on their own, can never be as powerful as Anakin. Their full potential has yet to be explored. They've been separated too long. So I'm kind of reading between the lines here, but I think that both of these girls are going to survive. I don't think that's any question whatsoever. I think they want to explore the girls' relationship more, or maybe when they come together, and we're going to get to that in my predictions, that they're both going to survive. I do not think they're going to die. I do think that their fates are tied because their consciousness is one, but like I said, we'll get to that later. So it says here, part of this question also, part of her answer to this same question is, so the twins are weaker than Anakin for sure. They're going to fall short on what will eventually become the chosen one. They'll never achieve what that is because in my mind, NSA can only do so much. She's not powerful enough to create one person. The twins split, NSA is power split, and therefore a lot of her philosophy is about the power of 2, about the fact that they must stay together. They must stay together. The twins are stronger together. So this goes into my theory that I think the twins are going to survive. I don't think they're going to die. I think they're going to join together. Whether they both kill Soul, they both kill Chimere, we'll get to that. But I think that they are both going to survive. And if we get a season 2, that's probably what they're going to explore. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Coral. So Coral says she would die before she let the Jedi take her children. Then the Jedi take Osha. So is it okay to assume she's dead because the episode definitely suggests she survived? And I think that's the case too. And she says here, yeah, nobody, no death. That's what I'll say about that one. So now we'll get into why I think Coral, we will not see her again. I don't think she has anything to do with the Sith. I think she just ran away. We'll get to that in a second. It also says here that she does not know Chimere, that they do not know each other. Coral doesn't know Chimere. Chimere doesn't know Coral. And it says here, they do not know each other, but I will say as a tease, if we are to explore this story more, her species will tell you a little bit about where she ends up. Now, Coral is a Zabrak, and then there's two types. There's the Iridonian, and there's the Dathomirian. And I think she looks like she's an Iridonian. Usually they have like the more normal human skin complexion rather than the black and red of the Night Sisters and the Night Brothers. So I think that maybe she returns to Iridonia because it seems like that she's an Iridonian Zabrak. All right, so this is interesting here. So it shows here, so in episode 7, Sol confuses Mae for Osha during the standoff right before he kills Anastasia. What does that mix-up reveal about Sol, both in that moment and for his presumed connection with Osha? All right, so Headland says this, that he doesn't know her well as he thinks he does. Chimere has a similar reaction to Osha that Sol has. Sol has that Qui-Gon Anakin connection with her. This is a powerful Force-sensitive child. Meant to be my Padawan. I'm drawn to this particular power, which means I need to help this young woman reach her full potential as a Jedi. Now, she goes back to episode 2. Says Chimere has this exact same experience with her in episode 2. The second Osha walks into the apothecary, he knows that it's not Mae. He can feel this, that something is different. He can feel that he wants to teach her. Chimere wants to be a part of her journey to reach her full potential. What I think is interesting is that Chimere and that later the stranger never mistakes Osha for Mae, and Sol mistakes Osha for Mae at least twice. That's also meant to foreshadow who Osha's real master is. I think that's interesting. I didn't catch that. So Chimere never mistakes the two girls. He knows the difference. He never gets them conflict. He knew right away when Osha walked in that it was Osha, and Sol has done it twice now. So that's interesting. So I think we got a little bit of foreshadowing of what's going on. All right, and we have here this question, will we learn whether Chimere is truly a Sith or not in the season finale? And Headland says, what I will say is you don't hear it from his mouth, but there are a couple of small things that happen that intimate that answer to that question.
But a Jedi like you might call me Sith.
My theory is that I don't think he is going to be a Sith. I think he's a failed Sith. I think whoever his master is out there still. We're probably going to see him. I don't think he is any longer a Sith. He's probably an Acolyte at one point or an apprentice. It didn't work out. And he could end up being maybe a different type of Sith cult or Sith. He's going to try and start another lineage of some kind, and they're going to have some kind of issue with the Bane lineage or something like that, or kind of a rival of some type. That could be the case here. And also will we learn if Chimere has any connections to the Knights of Ren? That's another one because of the Kylo Ren theme that's played a few times. And she pauses. She says, that's a really good theory. What an interesting theory. What an amazing. That's wow, wow, wow. That great. I mean, it's kind of obvious. Okay, so and it says here, what aspects of the series that will prove important to the finale do you think people haven't focused on enough up to this point? He says, I haven't been following the coverage of the show enough to really answer that. Right. I did hear that there was a bit of a dust-up in terms of the girl stepping on Anakin's creation storyline, which I had mixed feelings about, probably for another deep dive. I would say there'd be missing the forest for the trees and starting an argument about that instead of seeing that this is a power that could have existed in the world way before Anakin, and that power was being pursued by someone. So it's not an issue of paying attention to, but I did hear about that, and I just think people are taking into account the era that we're in. If there's anything we know about the 5th in 6, the 5th in Sith in sequels or prequels, one of the things we do know about them is their quest for these abilities, like we're seeing Anastasia being able to execute with the twins. It seems to me any power that does not belong to one faction, it is not something that Anastasia was born with either. It's a power that belongs to the Force, and it's up to that particular practitioner to be able to understand and figure out and pull apart how do you harness that particular power. I understand what people are complaining about, or we may be confused by, but I think they're sort of paying attention to the wrong aspect of it. They're not seeing the long game of the lineage of the Sith pursuing any sort of evidence of this type of power in the galaxy and then tunnel visioning toward it and improving upon it. And again, if the girls are a test run, being able to improve on what that power is and being also to perfect it, that would be something, if I were a Sith, I would be interested in. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. I think what she's saying here is the Sith have a hand in what happened with the girls, or they at least are very aware of it, whether it's Mother Anastasia, who maybe was associated with the Sith back in this time. There's a couple of questions here, which I'm hoping are going to get answered in episode 8, but it seems to be that the Sith know about the girls. They're interested in it. Maybe Chimere is, found them first, and maybe they're going to explore that more in season 8. Or season 2. I don't think we're going to get every single answer we want out of this, but I find this last part interesting, that it's something that if I were a Sith, I would be interested in because it has been done before. So I think this is why I think the Sith are going to show up in this last episode, but we're not going to get much more than them just kind of making a cameo. And then this last question, finally in the interview, is this one's for me. I've been waiting many years for Darth Plagueis to show up. Do you know how the whole story of the galaxy far, far away from the Acolyte to training Palpatine connects? And Heaven says, yes, I do. If I continue to get this story, I would like to play that out. I think I would say it's pretty complicated and messy. All right, so let's get into some predictions, and then we're going to get into a couple of spoilers that are general spoilers, but I'll let you guys know before we get into them. So first off, I don't think we're going to see Coral again. I think she survived, but we're not going to see her. I think that maybe later on, like she said, that we're going to explore that. Leslie Headland pretty much said as much, but I want to talk about Vernestra. One of the theories is that she's a Sith. I am 99.999% sure that she is not a Sith. I think she is what is the typical Jedi politician. I think she's just more worried about the status, perception, and the reputation of the Jedi. But I do think she's holding a secret. I think she is Chimere's former Jedi Master. That is my prediction. We see the scars on his back. That definitely looks like it's from a lightsaber whip. Somebody said, and I know a few people have said that it could be Force lightning, but I mean, Luke was shot with Force lightning. There's no scarring. I don't think Force lightning makes scarring like that. You look at Palpatine's face after, Revenge of the Sith and his fight with Mace, that kind of scarring is not the same. So I, again, 99.99% sure it's not Sith lightning. I think it's Vernestra. I think it's her whip. On top of that, Chimere has a Shoto lightsaber. Now, Shoto lightsabers were developed originally to fight the lightsaber whip. The first one that comes to my mind is not the first time this happened, it happened before this, but it was Luke and Mara carried Shoto lightsabers in order to fight Lumaya, who had a lightsaber whip. There have been plenty of lightsaber whips in the Old Republic, and Bane had, one of his potential apprentices was Githany, and she carried a lightsaber whip. So it's been done quite a bit, but that's what I remember. So a Shoto lightsaber is developed specifically to help fight a lightsaber whip. I think Chimere is both a fallen Jedi under Vernestra, and I also think he's a failed Sith. I think that the Sith Master kind of discarded him maybe for another apprentice, but he survived somehow, or, maybe he was an acolyte at some point, but I don't think that he's an actual Sith. I think that he maybe starts the Knights of Ren, possibly. I know Leslie was kind of vague about that, but the fact that Kylo Ren's theme song is played a few times, that's another indication that it's probably he may end up doing that. And what I also think too with that is he may start a different Sith lineage or a rival to the Bane lineage, which is Plagueis and Tenebris. I don't think they're going to talk about that. They're not going to do anything like that in this season. I don't think we're going to get much of a Sith perspective as far as the true Sith Lords. I think they're going to make an appearance. We'll get to that in a second. But I don't think we're going to dive too much into that other than them making an appearance at the end of the episode. Now, as far as Osha and Mae goes, I think Osha is going to kill Sol. I think that that's going to happen. I think she's going to learn from Chimere the truth about what happened. She's going to blame Sol. She's going to fall to the dark side. But I think her and Mae both are going to survive. I wouldn't be surprised if Osha and Mae somewhat reconcile or join forces anyway to kill Sol. And I think he potentially could be blamed for everything, a rogue Jedi who trained Mae. Now, in order for this to happen, both girls have to escape and just escape everything or everybody. They have to get away from Chimere and definitely get away from the Jedi. Maybe not Chimere so much. Maybe Osha joins Chimere. We also have a photo just released of Vernestra's formal robes. I think she's going to address the Senate or the Chancellor and either do some kind of damage control or cover up. And I think what I heard was David Harwood will be playing the Chancellor, so he's not going to be playing a Sith Lord of any kind. I know that was kind of the rumor. I think that Vernestra is going to be addressing the Chancellor / the Senate, doing damage control, cover up, whatever you want to call it. I think Sol might be blamed for it, but in order for that to happen, because he wasn't there for any of the Jedi killings, as far as Indara or Torben, who offed himself, that was definitely Mae. But what they might do is Sol will be blamed for training Mae in secret, having her kill these Jedi. Then what happened on Kofar with the rest of them, we saw at the end in episode 6 where Mog came up with a theory that it was Sol who did all of this, or he could have. And Vernestra kind of clutched at pearls saying that's an accusation, but I think she might use that as a way to frame Sol for all of this. I don't think he's going to make it through the episode. I think he's going to die. Now, as far as the Sith Lords go, I don't think we're going to see them in any significant role other than maybe a cameo at the end with Chimere on what seems to be the island of Baldemnik with the Cortosis vein in the cave, trying to put everything together. I think that the Sith know about the witches. They know about the girls. They know about the Virgins of the Force. You put all these together and it definitely screams Tenebrous. I think Leslie did say in an interview that 2 Sith will appear. It's very, very possible we're going to get Tenebrous and Plagueis at the end of the episode, just as a cameo. I don't think they're going to have anything to do with anything that's going on right now. I think they're going to wrap up everything with the characters we have. Mae and Osha are going to be the centerpiece to this. Let's get to the final thing, and this is going to be the spoiler part of it. Now, I was watching Star Wars Meg on this, and this is where I got this from, so I will link her video at the end of this one. You guys can see the full leaks and spoilers. Now, this is a general one, but this leaker, who I guess has been reliable in the past, said that there's going to be a character cameo in there, that it's a character people love, but it's also a character that people are going to be upset that this character is in here at this time and place. So we are, it's worse than Ki-Adi-Mundi. There was also rumors before the show even started that there would be a cameo by a certain Sith Lord from the Old Republic, Darth Revan. That's what my mind first jumped to when I saw that. My very first thought, and I think she might have actually said this, and maybe that's where I got it. She did say this too. I think it's a very good chance that it could be Darth Revan. It's a character people love, but if he was to show up now, I think that would probably set a lot of people off. It's supposed to be controversial according to this leak. So yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. I want to hear your guys' theories, anything that I've talked about or anything you have. Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.